Well, my name's Julie O'Halloran and I've been at Redcliffe since about 2009. So when my marriage broke up and my husband very kindly let me stay in my house for about 5 years, I got to the stage where I knew I had to sell. I woke up one day and after going through the pain and the grief of a broken relationship, I realised that I could sell my house. I could part with what was my relationship, my marriage, my life, the place where my children really grew up. I had a lot of contacts in Samford, Uniting Church at Samford, so I was also breaking contact with them. So it was like leaving family and starting all over again. So then I thought, well, what next? And I had started to have a journey with Elijah House Ministries, which is a prayer ministry organisation, and that was life-changing for me. And through that, I learnt that God is my refuge and my strength. It went from my brain to my heart, and I understood really what that meant. I ended up selling the house quickly, had nowhere to go, approached a friend who also worked at Grace, and so I ended up living with her for the next 6 months. Started looking for houses and I couldn't think of where I wanted to live. On lots of prayer, I was given a word by God very clearly that I needed to look in Redcliffe. And so I eventually found, the house that I have now. And when I found it, in my head I'd thought, God has blessed me immeasurably over the years. And I learnt that blessings are always given to be given away. And I became really convicted that whatever I needed to do in the future, I needed to be able to give away the blessings that I'd been given. And so the house that I found was quite amazing. It was such a miracle. And so I found a house where it had been shifted on a block. It was private and there was a hole underneath that was just nothing except a concrete slab. So as that journey started, God would give me a word. Just every now and again, I'd be given a word. And I think one of the things that Elijah House really taught me was that, God speaks to you in those still, quiet moments, and he just drops a word in. All sorts of things happened, and I was able to fill in the downstairs of the house. Again, miracle after miracle, to the point where I was able to finish downstairs within my budget. I met a builder who understood completely my kind of feelings, and he was actually totally into it with me. Like, he absolutely got it from day one. And so the first people that moved in was a friend of mine who'd been really badly affected by the financial crisis, and she was shattered. She and her husband were just shattered. They had to sell everything, all their assets, and start again. And so they stayed with me for a while, and they managed to put their lives back together and find peace and save a bit of money as well. Then I had a lovely young girl came and stayed, and she was looking for somewhere safe to live. She'd moved down from the Sunshine Coast, and she stayed with me for a while. And then I had some Iranian refugees who'd been sponsored out here by family, and they were really interesting people and taught me a lot. But then my daughter experienced a really devastating event in her life. She came home and lived there. And so that was her place of peace, her place to recharge. And it's lovely because I feel while people are there especially, I can pray into their life. So I feel like God has given me these people to be almost like a prayer intercessor for them as well. I just feel like they've been given for a short time so that I can bless them with my little house of peace and quiet so they can recover. In all of this, I pray hugely for God's protection and for his wisdom, because I live on my own. I am on a part pension, so I have to do things honestly, but I've also got to know that I have boundaries and that it has to be within safe boundaries for me. So it's not that I open my house out to every Tom, Dick and Harry. I am fairly selective in as much as I pray hugely about it before it happens, because I think as Christians we have to have safe boundaries. And that's one of the things that I've learnt, that you give and you pass on the blessings, all the time, but God doesn't expect you to be trampled in the process, because He wants you to do what you feel is His calling, but within safe boundaries.